5 days after the verdict, Americans are still pondering the lessons of the Derek Chauvin case and wondering what it means for our nation going forward. Here's Martha Teichner.
Believe your eyes. What you saw, you saw.
Over and over again, he said it.
It's exactly what you saw with your eyes. It's exactly what you knew. It's what you felt in your gut. It's what you now know in your heart.
Prosecutor Steve Schleicher in final arguments to the jury in the Derek Chauvin murder trial.
This wasn't policing. This was murder.
You know that's bogus right now, bro.
From every angle, jurors saw, took in what Darnella Frazier, then 17, dared to record on her cell phone. They watched witnesses weep, describing how they saw George Floyd die, and did what so many other juries have not.
Find the defendant guilty.
They believed.
I was relieved that the jury found Derek Chauvin guilty. I was surprised that they did.
Dartmouth College African-American history professor Matthew Delmont discussing the verdict with colleagues last week.
We've seen so many cases from Rodney King to the present where video evidence would seem to guarantee that police would be found guilty.
But the police officers who beat Rodney King in 1991 were acquitted.
I think if Darnella Frazier hadn't taken that video, I don't think it's possible that the jury would have convicted Derek Chauvin. Without that video, I don't think you see the massive protests across the country and globally last summer. And without that, I don't think there's the pressure on Minneapolis to bring the case in the way that they did.
But he adds,
the visual proof doesn't guarantee justice.
Delmont grew up in Minneapolis, not far from where George Floyd died. If he sounds wary, it's because Americans have seen with their own eyes for decades the horror of Emmett Till's face after he was lynched in 1955. There was Eric Garner in 2014.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
He said, "I can't breathe," too. At least 64 more people were killed by police in the United States just during the Chauvin trial, including 20-year-old Dante Wright, just a few miles from the courthouse. When it happens in your city, you take it personally.
I can't not take this personally, not as a black mom in the Twin Cities. There's no way. All of this is personal to me.
Professor Duchess Harris is a race scholar at Macalester College in St. Paul, Minnesota.
There has been a killing of an unarmed black man every summer since 2014.
The litany of police killings in the Twin Cities includes Philando Castile in 2016, his girlfriend live streaming the aftermath on Facebook.
He was reaching for his wallet, and the officer just shot him in his arm.
Told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand out.
The cop who shot him was found not guilty of manslaughter.
I did the research, and when Philando Castile was killed, 60% of white Americans were opposed to Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
Harris, too, has been grappling with what happened between then and now.
Say his name!
George Floyd!
How, among the tens of millions of Americans who defied COVID quarantines last summer, to march in George Floyd's name behind Black Lives Matter banners, huge numbers were white.
Stop killing! Black people! Stop killing!
What I have come to at this point is my own understanding that so many white people just didn't know. And I didn't realize that they didn't know. And that's partly because I'm living my life and I've never had the opportunity not to know.
It was a murder in the full light of day, and it ripped the blinders off for the whole world to see.
Why did white people not see with their own eyes what was before them?
And even, to be perfectly frank, even if there were no images, why did we not hear? Why did we not listen?
Writer Alex Kotlowitz has spent his career trying to straddle the racial divide.
In my second book, The Other Side of the River, when I was in these two towns, Benton Harbor and St. Joe, Benton Harbor, predominantly black, incredibly distressed. On the other side of the river, all white and very prosperous.
In 1998, Sunday Morning accompanied Kotlowitz to the two southwestern Michigan towns.
You tell me you feel safer in Benton Harbor despite the murder rate here than you would in St. Joe. Yeah. I mean, here's a kid who says he's more afraid of going into St. Joe than he is in his own town, and yet in his own town they have 20 murders in 1 year. In St. Joe they've had 3 murders in 25 years.
Fear is also the reason St. Joe residents say they don't go to Benton Harbor. What does that say to you?
Well, it says to me that we've got a long way to go in this country to build some kind of connections or bridges between people. And I would go into the white community, St. Joseph, and people would say, but why are you writing about this? Race isn't an issue around here. They were so disconnected from their neighbors across the river that they couldn't even begin to sort of imagine what it meant to be black in this country.
Couldn't see each other, Kotlowitz came to believe, even though they were neighbors.
And maybe that's the one thing that's different about this moment, is that
everybody saw the same thing?
Yeah, white Americans finally saw what black Americans have seen and experienced for a long time.